Hey, what's up? It's Bon, and today I want to talk about BioWare, Dragon Age Dreadwolf, and Mass Effect as kind of a whole, and to touch on a subject that's been coming up a lot lately in the Mass Effect and BioWare subreddits, in my own content, in my comments, in my stream chats, and things like that. Is Dragon Age Dreadwolf make or break for BioWare, and is it at risk if the game doesn't do well? Before we dive into that, if you like Dragon Age, BioWare, Mass Effect, games, news, and speculation and reviews in general, please consider subscribing to this channel. If you like this video, hit the like button. And if you have a comment, please leave it down below, whether you agree with me or not. If you have your own ideas, or if you just want to tell me your favorite burrito, then please do that. It all helps. And lastly, if you like this video, if you want to support my content and help me justify the time I spend on this in my podcast and my streams, please consider becoming a YouTube member. You get the videos early, you get a fun little membership icon beside your comments, and that's it. So do it if you feel like it. If not, just watching is nice too. Getting into the actual subject of the video, just to come out and ruin my my length of watch maybe on this video is no, I don't think that Dragon Age Dreadwolf is make or break for this game, and it's for a few kind of meandering reasons, right? One of the big reasons is the fact that BioWare still exists. EA is a publisher that has never been afraid to cut and run from a studio or a project, no matter how legendary or how beloved, and to be totally honest, it's kind of amazing that BioWare exists at all today, right? And I feel like its legacy and the team that is there, even if it is a ship of Theseus situation to a point, EA must still see the value in BioWare, because I don't know how many other studios that are under a publisher like EA would still be around after their recent history, right? Obviously, the Legendary Edition, the remaster did great, but I don't know if that's really considered like a big tentpole game by the publisher, even though I bet it probably made pretty decent money, especially for how much they had to put into it. But then you have Anthem, which was, for, in all honesty, a cool idea, but not executed very well, and I assume lost them money. Then you had Andromeda, Mass Effect, which probably made money. If you really look at how many copies it sold and stuff like that, it probably did okay financially, but obviously from a reputation standpoint, probably wasn't great for BioWare and EA in general, by taking one of the most beloved franchises in the industry, and at least for some people, I would say probably a majority, putting a sour taste in that, and putting out a game that, though slightly improved from launch, is still just kind of a mediocre entry into a pretty legendary franchise. And then you go back to 2013 and you have Dragon Age Inquisition, which, won Game of the Year in the first Game of the Year, at least for Keighley. But that's been a thing that's been kind of talked about and questioned, and maybe that was a lack of other games that year, but or lack of recognition of them. So you have this studio that hasn't had a huge success in over 10 years at this point, but it's still around, and Dreadwolf is likely coming out this year, and I think that's one of the main reasons why this isn't make or break. Another one is that I assume the fact that Dreadwolf is still in existence, despite rumored reboots, delays during especially COVID, seemingly having a pretty big impact on that. Internal delays that sound like they've been happening for quite a while on the project. It's still coming out, and I hope that since it is still coming out, that cooler heads are going to prevail when the game comes out and its reception and sales. My assumption is that Dragon Age Dreadwolf isn't expected to be this boon for EA and to sell 30 million copies and to make a ton of money, because at this point it wouldn't surprise me if Dragon Age Dreadwolf is the most expensive game that EA has ever made. Mostly because it, for as far as we know, has been in full production for twice as long as most similar games are. Not to mention, pre-production costs and things like that. My guess is that the goal for Dreadwolf is to break even at best, to make its money back. And due to that, it just makes it really hard for me to believe that it all rides on Dreadwolf, right? This is a game that I suspect they'll just be happy that it got out at all to make some money back. And don't get me wrong, like I really hope, this is a great game. I hope it's really good. I think in a world where Baldur's Gate 3 exists, I think in a world where, Dragon's Dogma 2, which is looking like it's going to be pretty popular, exists, there is a space for this game, especially late in 2024. It could be a really good position. It's a lot of new fans are in this genre and the high fantasy RPG choice driven kind of genre, including myself. And I think the fact that it still exists, that it is coming still, and the hopeful fact that EA is going to be realistic about their expectations with it is another reason why I don't think it's make or break. And then the final reason is that Mass Effect is in pre-production, and in theory, we still arguably know more about that game, even though it's probably 3-4 years away at least, than we even do Dreadwolf at this point, or we've at least heard more about it over the last 4 years than we've heard about Dreadwolf. And I don't know if that's the studio willing that into existence. It is not unheard of for studios to kind of put pressure on their publisher by playing up fandom and getting people all excited and all riled up to kind of as kind of a shot across the bow at their publisher to say, hey, look at how excited all these people are for this next game. You guys better not shut us down. You guys better not cancel it, because look at all these millions of people who are going to be super mad if you do. But they've also been hiring. It seems like they're mostly currently and recently been hiring for Dreadwolf to get it out. But those hires can also turn into longer term positions. And then, I think the thing that has me the most hopeful for Mass Effect and BioWare in general is that, as far as we know, the entire director leadership team of Mass Effect has been around since mid 2022. And, we're coming on, that's 2 years of stable leadership in their pre-production phase, even though they've been disrupted, it seems, by some devs going over and working on Dreadwolf and things like that. I think if BioWare in the Mass Effect project were in dire straits and there was concern all over the studio that it wasn't going to happen one day, or that it was hanging on, by a thread, dependent on Dreadwolf, I just think we would see more turnover, especially from that leadership team, because, and it's, we're looking at people like Kojima and stuff getting older. For these developers, when they're working in this space, in this AAA big publisher space, you're talking about games that take 5 to 10 years to make. If the average person's career in this industry is 30 or 35 years, you're talking about, you might only be able to work on 4 or 5 games in your career at this point. And I suspect that that's making people more stingy, or more willing to leave situations that aren't good. And so that kind of goes back to my idea that stable leadership team that we're aware of kind of gives me hope for everything. So to wrap it back around, I think the fact that BioWare still exists at all, which is awesome. I never want any devs to get laid off or to not have a job, especially in the environment that we've been dealing with for the last couple of years, especially. I think the fact that hopefully they're realistic about their expectations for Dreadwolf, and the fact that Mass Effect is still happening and seems to be humming along pretty well, gives me hope that Dragon Age Dreadwolf is not make or break for BioWare, but we'll have to wait and see. I think the reception is going to matter, though, and I think it's actually going to matter quite a bit for Mass Effect. But there's 4 scenarios that could all happen. Dreadwolf could do really well, and that may mean that they give the next Mass Effect more time and more budget and more resources because they have this game making money now, so they can take time. But sometimes publishers, if you have a game do really well or better than expected, they may come to BioWare and say, you got to get Mass Effect out quick. You got 2 years because we need to ride this high. But then the opposite could happen too. If Dreadwolf isn't received really well, they may say, okay, let's give Mass Effect time to breathe, time to develop and do its thing. Let's not have another, mediocre showing. Or they could say, you guys got to make money, so you guys better put out that Mass Effect real quick. So all of those things can be true, and we just have to wait and see what they're going to do. So I'm eternally optimistic. I am hopeful that my prediction here is correct, and that we have a safe BioWare moving forward. But in the state of the industry today, who knows? Good studios are getting shut down and cut down anyways. So it's all chaos, and we all just hope for a better tomorrow. And that's what I have for this one. So thank you for watching. Again, if you like the video, subscribe, hit the like button, become a YouTube member if you really want to support, and leave your comments down below. I am Bon Diesel all over the internet, including over on Twitch, where you can catch me streaming a few times a month. And check out my podcast, The Bonfire and the Mass Effect Hypecast, right here or on all podcast platforms. And that's all I have for this one. So until next time.